In recent hours, tensions surrounding the conflict between Israel and Iran have escalated significantly, according to the Associated Press, citing satellite imagery. The Pentagon has dispersed and put to sea all ships belonging to the Fifth Fleet, which is usually stationed in the small emirate of Bahrain. Currently, no American vessels from this attack group remain docked. Dispersing ships is a standard strategy to protect them when a clear threat is perceived, or when they might be about to engage in combat. The question arises, is Iran truly planning to attack U.S. military targets? This might be connected to a sharp shift in the U.S. president's stance. Donald Trump has demanded Iran's unconditional surrender. As the aerial war between Israel and Iran continues, meanwhile, Israel persists in attacking new targets in Iran and is actively pressuring Washington to join its campaign and help complete its mission. This raises several questions. Why does Trump now appear to be making a complete U-turn, even seemingly contradicting some of his own key supporters? Is U.S. intervention genuinely likely? What exactly is happening? Israel's offensive and objectives? Israel continues to heavily target sites in Iran. Israeli Defense Forces planes are reportedly operating over Iranian airspace with impunity. In recent hours, they have attacked numerous weapon production plants, particularly missile facilities, and continued bombing nuclear program installations. Specifically, they recently targeted a centrifuge production center. Centrifuges are essential machines for enriching uranium. Israel remains unyielding in pursuing its objective, which fundamentally involves three goals: neutralize the nuclear program until it ceases to be a threat, destroy a significant portion of Iran's deterrence capability, especially its system for producing, storing, and launching missiles. This includes both those capable of reaching Israel and those with a shorter range that could target oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait, which are crucial to the Ayatollah's deterrence. If Israel cripples this threat, it would also benefit Arab countries. Despite public condemnations, figures like Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Zayed of the UAE are likely privately pleased. This operation could ultimately reshape the Middle East's power dynamics and alliances, decapitate Iran's armed forces and intelligence services to undermine their operational capacity, and avenge their years of support for Hamas and Hezbollah. This serves as a warning. If you mess with Israel, you will pay a heavy price, sooner or later. These three goals are the clear objectives of Israel's ambitious operation, and they show no signs of stopping until they are achieved. This is seen as a unique window of opportunity in history, and Netanyahu is determined to exploit it to the fullest. Therefore, any talk of a ceasefire is off the table until Jerusalem declares mission accomplished. Iran's response and challenges naturally. Iran is not standing idly by. Ayatollah Khamenei's threats have even been delivered in Hebrew. We must act forcefully against the Zionist terrorist entity. We will not be lenient with the Zionists. For its part, the Revolutionary Guard has issued a new warning, calling for the evacuation of Tel Aviv. However, how much of this is a real threat, and how much is mere propaganda? Since the start of the Israeli offensive, the Ayatollahs have retaliated by launching hundreds of missiles and drones against Israel, according to recent counts. Approximately 400 missiles and hundreds of drones were launched during the first 5 days of the conflict. Many have penetrated defenses, impacted targets, and caused significant damage. Israel is actively eliminating high-ranking Iranian officials and dismantling Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities. The damage caused by Iranian forces has been limited, mainly targeting civilian areas to maximize casualties. So far, there have been 24 civilian fatalities and about 500 injured. While tragic, these losses are not comparable to the level of damage Israel is inflicting. Currently, Israel appears to be winning this conflict. A country of just over 9 million people has gained control of the skies over Iran. A nation of 90 million people and an oil exporter that supposedly spent years preparing for such a situation. In just 5 days, Israel has managed to overwhelm its defenses. Moreover, in recent hours, Iranians have been launching small salvos of 10 to 15 missiles, which are entirely insufficient to overcome the defenses of both the IDF and the United States, which are assisting the Israelis in intercepting incoming missiles. The IDF attributes these small salvos to their attacks having severely diminished Iran's actual capabilities. The interceptor dilemma and potential U.S. role as the tide already turned. Not so fast. This remains an armed clash with many risks, and one of the most significant is that Israel is running low on defensive interceptors. The scarcity of aero interceptors used to counter Iranian missiles has triggered efforts to boost Israel's defenses. To prevent this shortage, the United States has recently deployed ground, sea, and air defense systems to assist Israel. Neither the U.S. nor the Israelis can afford to merely sit back and intercept missiles indefinitely. Israelis and their allies must act with urgency. Does this mean Israel is more vulnerable than we think? It's not necessarily. The IDF hopes to inflict enough damage on Iran's missile launch system to make potential attacks much smaller and prevent such a scenario. Furthermore, Israel Aerospace Industries, a manufacturer of these interceptors, is working tirelessly. However, the risk remains. Defensive systems are not infinite. And if Israel has to ration interceptors, more missiles could cause damage. Conversely, Iran's missile and launcher count is also finite, making it a critical aspect of this game theory conflict. Iran is not launching more missiles in large salvos, precisely because it's an irreversible action. Ayatollahs cannot replace expended missiles. It is estimated that Iran has between 300 and 1,300 missiles remaining. This means both sides are on a tightrope regarding their respective supplies. Despite the challenges, the IDF appears confident. However, something could make a significant difference. United States intervention. Unlike the Ayatollahs, Israel possesses a powerful card to accelerate the achievement of its objectives in this operation. The U.S. Washington might be preparing for imminent intervention, though the nature of it remains unclear. Trump's predicament and the Fordo facility. Donald Trump's initial stance at the beginning of Israel's military campaign against Iran was notably different. He urged Iran to reach a nuclear deal before nothing is left. Hours before Israel launched its unilateral attack, he stated, "We remain committed to a diplomatic resolution of the Iranian nuclear issue." However, events, and particularly the immense success of the Israeli campaign, have caused the U.S. president to abruptly change his position, even stating, "We now have total and absolute control of the skies over Iran." While this claim overstates the U.S. role in suppressing Iranian air defenses, it reflects a realization that Israel's operation is irreversible. A diplomatic agreement with Tehran is now a bygone conclusion. Israel will not stop until Netanyahu achieves his stated goals. The Israelis are pressing Washington to intervene for two main reasons. First, to accelerate the outcome, and second, because American assistance would be crucial for achieving their objectives, especially concerning the nuclear program. A large portion of Iran's atomic infrastructure is deep underground, protected by bunkers requiring specialized bombs that only the United States can deliver. This situation has placed Donald Trump at a crossroads: drag the U.S. into a conflict he opposed just days ago, or abandon the Israelis and lose a unique opportunity to neutralize Iran once and for all. There are arguments for and against each action. Helping Israel would allow Trump to reclaim the spotlight, which he covets, and facilitate a quicker resolution. However, a direct strike on Iran by Washington would be a point of no return, carrying significant risks. If the United States joins Israel's campaign and attacks, for instance, the Fordo nuclear facility, the Houthi militia in Yemen could immediately resume attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Israelis are convinced they can contain the threat by dismantling Iranian capabilities before they can be effectively used, and that U.S. intervention would permanently end the nuclear program, forcing the Ayatollah regime to negotiate its survival. Others, however, like Erdogan, are not as convinced, arguing Netanyahu poses the greatest threat to Middle East security. The Fordo challenge and the GBU-57, the Iranian nuclear facility at Fordo, is a key base that Israel has already struck. But the damage has been superficial and limited, according to U.S. intelligence. The reason Israel hasn't been able to destroy this site is simple. Much of its key infrastructure is located 80 to 90 meters underground. Beyond the reach of any conventional aerial bomb Israel is known to possess, the same applies to Natanz. However, these underground facilities are not indestructible. There is a weapon that could obliterate them: the USGBU-57 bunker buster bomb. This massive device weighs 13,600 kilograms. Without destroying Fordo, the complete cessation of Iran's nuclear program cannot be guaranteed. This is the dilemma Trump desperately wanted to avoid. On one hand, intervening now that Israel controls the skies would put him back in the global spotlight, would allow him to overshadow the fact that Netanyahu launched this operation precisely because he distrusts the current U.S. administration's negotiation capabilities. On the other hand, intervention carries potential risks. While Israelis are trying to convince the U.S. there's nothing to worry about, and that together they can neutralize the Ayatollah's threat completely and permanently. Jerusalem also claims that even without U.S. involvement, they have everything planned to dismantle Iran's nuclear program. However, with Washington's help, it would be much easier and faster. This explains why all U.S. troops in the region have been placed on maximum alert. Importantly, if Trump joins the attack, he would be doing so against the advice of his own intelligence services. According to Israel, Iran was only months away from acquiring its first nuclear bombs. However, U.S. intelligence was not convinced the Ayatollahs were that close, assessing that Iran was not actively seeking a nuclear weapon, and was still 3 years away from being able to produce and deliver one. This discrepancy likely contributed to Trump's initial reluctance. Netanyahu acted preemptively without his allies' green light, effectively forcing the U.S.'s hand to finish what Israel started. Netanyahu seized this moment, seeing a unique historical opportunity before Trump could finalize any deal with Iran. Therefore, this conflict is unlikely to end until Israel achieves its objectives 100%. Key questions: do you believe the United States should intervene, at least in the destruction of Iran's key nuclear facilities? How do you think Tehran would react if that happened? Would they dare to attack U.S. bases or Saudi or Emirati oil fields?